So, all right. So today we are joined by Rhoda Gordon, who is the owner of Sunflower Solutions, which is a photo organizing company that she started. And she's going to share about her company as well as her amazing DIY photo organizing kit called Dig Your Photos. We really love this kit because we strongly believe in DIY photo organizing and digitization, and of course want you to get all of your materials organized so you can put them up on permanent and create your digital legacy. So my name is Amanda Meeks. I am the Community and Partnerships Manager here at Permanent. And we are just super excited to have you all here and to have Rhoda here. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to her so that she can do an introduction and kind of get into the program today.
Hi, great. Thank you so much for that introduction, Amanda. I'm so thrilled to be here today, and I really want to thank all of you who are tuning in, or if you're watching this later, thank you for watching, because I really am very passionate about helping everyone save their story through photos and movies and all the memorabilia of our lives, or our parents' lives, or our grandparents' lives. I think it's one of the most important things that we can hand down to our children or to the future generations. So the talk today is plan before you scan, organize before you digitize, or then digitize. And so I'm going to just get right into it. I'm going to share my screen. I'll also stay up slightly in a slightly fun way. And let me just set this up that I'm on the right page. Start. Okay. Share. Right. All right. So again, thank you for being here. The webinar today is Plan Before You Scan, Organize, Then Digitize. And I'm Rhoda Gordon. I'm a certified photo manager. My company is Sunflower Photo Solutions, and that's really more of the service side. I help my clients organize, pare down, and digitize their print collection, and then I also help them organize and think of ways to share and back up their digital photo and media collection. So again, I'm thrilled to be here, and this is in conjunction and through permanent.org, which is an amazing way to have to actually back up your media collection and to have extra storage for your media to share with generations to come. So I'm Rhoda. I've already said I'm a certified photo manager. I've been doing this for 9 years. I really got into it because I had inherited boxes and boxes and bags and trunkfuls of media from my father and his father, my grandfather. And I set about creating a process to organize them and make heads or tails of really the story that came before me and what made me myself. And then I found out there was an organization called the Photo Managers, and I was certified by them, and I've been helping families ever since. I'm also a speaker. I've spoken at various different conferences, both in the photo management space, in the travel space, and also in just the professional organizing space. And I am an avid traveler. I wasn't always. It's really because my husband is an avid traveler, and he loves just the creativity and the learning and just really experiencing new things and cultures. And I also have really come along, and I embrace it. I take the pictures, I tell our story. And so I am happy to talk to anybody about different places I've been at another time. Reach out to me anytime. And I am an inventor. I noticed a gap in the market while helping my clients, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later, but I really was being hired quite frequently by my clients to organize their digital photo collection after they had already scanned their photos, and they didn't organize them before they scanned. So it created a lot more work, which if you hired a photo manager equals money. And I really was sad that people were doing the scanning before they were organizing. And so I created Dig Your Photos which is, I'm pointing to it, but you can't see it right now, to allow anybody to organize their own print photos at home. And it's a fun, engaging activity, whether it's you're doing it with your entire family or you're doing it on your own. So the agenda for today is to talk about the whys. Why are we going to organize our photos, and why would we want to? The steps to organizing your photos, some of the tools that will really help you in your print organizing experience, and then how to get help. There'll also be some handouts at the end and a discount code, so stick around to the end. So, who doesn't like to take photos? I mean, they're a vivid reminder of places we've been, experiences we've had with loved ones or friends or comrades we don't even know. But they bring us back to a moment in time, whether it was last week or 30 years ago. And really, our most cherished memories are really brought up by photos in most cases, and the stories that we want to hand down. But at the same time, just the thought of all our photos, especially the print ones, can be very overwhelming. Just think about it. Before the invention of the iPhone or the camera phone, let's say, which was 2010, we did have digital cameras, probably starting in 2005, but we still printed out our photos. So everything prior to 2010, going back, 90 years, was print photos. And sometimes we printed them in duplicates and triplicates. And so we all end up with this chaos, photo chaos, I'll call it, print photo chaos. And it can be overwhelming. But never fear, there is a solution. So let's first talk about why we want to digitize. And since everybody's here, I'm thinking that you are contemplating having your photos scanned or scanning them yourself. So why would we want to do that? Well, number one, it creates a backup of your print photos. For the most part, you probably only have singles of your photos. There are probably a portion that are duplicates, but singles, and that's the only copy. So if anything happens, whether it's, let's say, a fire or a flood, a hurricane, or even just misplacing a box of those photos somewhere, whether you left it in a storage unit or in the back of a car or during a move it got lost, you cannot replace those photos. That's the only copy. So by digitizing or having them scanned, it creates a backup. It also allows for restoration. Even photos from the 90s, if you picked one up and looked at it, you would see that they have faded. Their coloring is slightly off. It also might have started to degrade even from the back forward. And so when you scan a photo, it allows for so many options for restoration, whether it's just minor color correction or actually having it fully repaired digitally, whether if there's cracks in it or pen marks or something else. And it also allows for accessibility and for sharing. So once they're digitized on your computer or in a cloud or on permanent.org, you now have the ability to invite people to see your photos or to take them and send them, whether it's text or email or to a website for sharing. So I think that's an amazing thing. I just have this extra picture here down in the left because I wanted to point out that so we had a full house over Thanksgiving. I have 3 kids. My mother was there, who lives close, so she didn't stay over. But I had digitized myself our old family movies, and we spent, before we ate dinner on Thanksgiving, a lot of time going over the old movies And you can see right here is my mom in the left, and my son is looking up. He has a beard, so he's not that young, looking up at the photos, and they're entranced. We had a lot of fun. We laughed. It was a really great bonding experience, and it happened to have just been our own family unit. So I would say never discount how important it is to share these memories, whether they're movies or photos, print photos, and the fact of looking at it together, not on your iPhone, but the physical ones as well. It really, I can't say it enough. It really is a bonding thing to have the tactile photo or the movie up, and you're both experiencing it at the same time. Now, that being said, I fully, because of these reasons I just said, think that you should take your print photos and have them scanned, at least the best of the best. But at the same time, I don't think that you should scan them before you organize them, and I will give you the reasons why. But first, let's talk about what's stopping you from organizing your print photos. Well, I break it down into a three-part reason, or three different types of reasons anyway. There's the emotional side. So how do you feel when you think about your print photo collection? For some people, it brings up a lot of guilt and stress because it's been something they've been meaning to do for a long time, organize it, pare it down, get it to a point where they can back it up. And it just nags at them, and they feel guilty. And that's a common response. When people call me up, I'm like, what predicated you to call me to help you? And a lot of times they're like, yeah, I've been thinking about this a long time and I feel very guilty that I haven't done it yet. That's normal. It's okay. Then there is the physical side. Maybe you don't know where all your print photos are because they're strewn about your house, maybe your kid's house, your mother's house, a storage unit. A lot of people actually keep their photos in a storage unit. And it just, the sheer thought of trying to get it all together at one time and going to the different places and finding them just really is a lot. And so physically, you don't know where they all are. And then there's the knowledge problem, right? We don't know where to start. It seems like there's so many different paths you can take to organize. How do you know whether you can put something in the potential trash pile or not? How do you know whether it's the best of the best? You know, and the thing is, honestly, the person who knows the most about your photos is you. So you are the best person to organize your photos. And with a little bit of knowledge, which I'm going to share with you today, and tell you how to even get more knowledge, whether it's by purchasing Dig Your Photos or by buying a book or getting a course or going to my YouTube channel, you can do it. It's not rocket science. It is just following a process. And the one thing I'll say before we move forward is that that if you are thinking maybe the best thing is just to throw it in a box, throw all my photos in a box, and I'll be done with it, and I'll send it out to some big box scanning company. I have nothing against big box scanning companies, honestly. I mean, I could talk to you about it for a long time, but if you do that and your photos are not organized, you are creating a bigger mess, as I said. So by investing the time earlier on in organizing your photos and deciding exactly what you want to scan makes it so much easier once you do scan it because you know you're scanning only the meaningful photos to you. Okay, so I just wanted to say having an organized, clean photo collection sets you up for successful scanning. And that's the whole point I just made before. So before you begin even organizing or scanning, think about it for a few minutes why you want to scan your photos. Perhaps, maybe you're downsizing and you need to really clear out things before you make a move. And you don't really want to move with boxes and boxes and bags of photos. And that is a really great goal. It's a large goal, but it's a great goal. But maybe your goal is you have a daughter getting married and you want to have all her photos, the best photos, so that digitized so that you could create a slideshow. That's a great goal as well. But based on what your goal is, that will determine how you go about the next steps in organizing your photos. For example, if your goal is to create a slideshow for your daughter's wedding, then you're going to be looking for your photos in a very different place than if you're doing a full-scale organizing. Meaning you're going to be looking for the best of the best photos of your daughter as she has grown up. So you're probably going to be looking at frames of photos, your albums of photos, and of course, your bedside drawer, your kitchen drawer, where you keep the great photos that you like to see every time you open up the drawer. So think for a few minutes and write down what your goal is for this particular portion and why you're scanning your photos. Then the first step in organizing your photos is to gather whatever you need for that particular project, for your goal. So again, if it's I'm cleaning out the basement and I need to make room on my shelves, then you gather all your photos from the basement. If you're doing a slideshow, then you gather the best of the best photos, as I mentioned before. If you are doing a full scale or all of your photos, then you're really going to be going on more of a scavenger hunt around your house to hunt down where all your photos are and bring them. And when I say bring them and gather, I mean bring them physically into one location. So maybe designate your dining room table for a little while as your photo central hub, or put up a 6-foot folding table in a guest room. I had one client who was using Dig Your Photos, and her place that she brought all her photos was the guest room. And she literally just put a big tablecloth on the twin bed in there, and she was using that as where she put all her photos. So they were in one place. She could really see what she had to do and what the extent of her photo collection was.
Hey,
So
Rhoda.
step one is to hunt and gather all the photos you need into one place based on your goal.
Hey, Rhoda. Can
Yes.
you, we have a couple requests for you to either change the position of where you are on the screen, or maybe do if you can move, because people can't see your photos in your slideshow.
They can't see the,
Yeah, I mean, we can see part of the photos. We can see the top one, and
okay, so I don't know how to do that, but I will just actually stop sharing and reshare without me in it. Okay?
okay.
Nobody
Thank
needs to even see me. All right,
you.
let's see. Okay, I'm going to share again. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're going to go to this here and share. So I will just go back to it so that you could see the photos of the ones prior. This was just goal setting. That was I think you saw that. That was a woman who's showing how frustrated she is. And this is probably the one you wanted to see. It was me and my, well, not me. Actually, this is me and my daughter, but this is my mother and my son watching the videos on Thanksgiving. Okay. And now we're gathering. And one last thing about hunting and gathering that I will mention is that we all think of our boxes and bags of photos as in the top picture, but also remember your albums and your frames. We all probably, I know I do, have frames of photos that are no longer on the walls, but they're somewhere, like on a shelf or in the basement leaning against a wall. Get those photos out of those frames as well. They've been exposed probably to sun or light, and they're probably faded. They may even have been taped to the back of the frame. That's not good for them. And of course, the glue from albums and tape from photo albums are really not great for your photos. They can degrade your photos from the back forward. So getting them out of the albums and into a place where A, you can scan them, but B, also you can enjoy them is amazing, especially since usually the albums are the photos that mean more to you because you've curated an album. So you've handpicked those photos. So don't forget them. The next step is what I call the quick sort. And that is literally taking a pile from your gather space. You take piles of photos and you sort them into 4 piles. um, I I choose gold, silver, bronze, and trash. So this last one is trash. And gold are your best of the best photos. Those are ones that you really want accessible to you on a maybe a monthly basis so that you can share them, or even a yearly basis, but you want to know where they are. They're the best of the best photos. And you probably want to display them somewhere, maybe in a digital frame or make a photo book or a slideshow. Then there is silver. And the silver photos are photos that are really meaningful to you, but you don't necessarily need to display them or see them on a monthly, yearly basis. They're just important to your story. And then the bronze photos, that is totally different. The bronze pile is the photos that tell a story, but maybe aren't great photos. For example, there could be a photo of your daughter with her eyes closed, and it's an old photo, but it's the only picture of your daughter with your grandmother, her great grandmother. And so you want to preserve that picture, even though it's not quality wise the best picture. Or in another way, there could be a really kind of blurry picture of people, but in the background is, the kitchen that you grew up in, and it's probably one of the only pictures of the kitchen you grew up in. So those are the types of photos that you would keep, even though they're not the best of the best photos, or photos that even are good quality. And that goes into the bronze pile. And then there's the trash. So if you don't like the word trash, you could just use for recycling or a basket pile. I call it trash. You don't have to throw it out, but you could keep them aside. And those are all the photos, first off, the duplicates, the photos that are scenery that have nobody in them, and you don't even remember where they are anymore, or maybe you do, but there's too many of them. The photos of all the animals in the zoo that your daughter made you, take pictures of each animal, but there's no person in it. You don't need to keep them anymore. And then all the other photos that maybe are not good quality and don't mean anything to you. And honestly, you really look at a picture for like 2 seconds and you instinctively know what pile it goes into. And on top of that, I'll tell you that your silver pile and your trash pile are going to be the biggest piles when you do this sorting. So that's what I call your quick sort. It quickly pares down your collection. And I think that is really important. You feel extremely successful after just doing that. And it really helps you define what are the important photos to you and to your story. Then the next step is creating a family timeline. Now, I think creating a family timeline is one of the most important things you can do as far as organizing your photos. And here's a sample of data to create your family timeline. At the top, literally, you do all the family milestones and also important events that maybe you took pictures of. But what's not shown here is you should also document where you lived, if you had to move, and what pets you had, and what years you had those pets. Because honestly, as you get into the weeds of organizing your photos, and if you want to sort them by date or categorize them by date, it's really important to understand, and you're going to be looking at the clues in the background. So all of a sudden, you're not really sure of the date, whether it's, 1991 or 97, but then you see the cat in the background. So it has to be, closer to 1997. That really helps. So all the important family milestones or milestones in people's lives, as well as graduations, where you lived, and maybe big vacations you took, and pets. And by documenting it first, then you can transfer it onto a long piece of paper. I like to use the length of whatever I'm working on. So, 6 feet long, 5 feet long on a table. And you create a horizontal line across, which is time. And then literally you decide when your collection starts. So let's say it starts in 1960. And then when it ends, and you literally put vertical lines and you mark them as each decade. And then you go to your chart, your family timeline chart, and you start marking all the milestones within that physical timeline. Doesn't take very long, and it's kind of fun to do if you do it as a family activity. If you have kids or grandkids, you let them decorate it or put stickers on it. It's fun, and it's really fun to also physically see the time path of your life. And then we have the last section, which is categorizing. And categorizing your photos is just using that family timeline and taking your gold pile, the best of the best, and putting them on the timeline where they belong. And then you can use index cards once you're done to say, you can see in the bottom picture, what year or group of years it is. And then you put the photos behind it. And then you go to the next milestone and you put that year and you put the photos behind that. And I always say, do the gold first and you organize it and categorize it. And then once you have them sorted and stacked, then you start on your silver pile. And that's because, first off, you want to keep your gold separate at least until you scan them so you know which ones are the most important to you. And also, if they're the best of the best, you'll probably have a better kind of memory of them. And so you can date them a little easier. And then so once you go to the silver, your mind has already kind of been tickled. And so the timing and the dates and where to put the photos will really come to you much quicker. So that's my suggestion. I also suggest when you sort your photos that you sort them and you put them in temporary storage. You could use shoe boxes. My Dig Your Photos box is a temporary storage box, standing up and separated by however you decided to categorize. You don't have to categorize down to the year, as my example is here, 1990, 1991. You can do it by half decade or decade, or even by generation. Maybe your collection spans generations. You can do, the generations of your grandparents, and then your parents, and then yourself. Or if it's your whole collection, starting from when you were young, I always say you could do, early child, baby, infancy, early childhood, school days, maybe college or early marriage, and then when you had children, family time. So really, how you want to categorize your photos are truly up to you, up to your memory, and up to how your family lived and took photos. Some people, their family only took photos at the holidays, and graduation. So the way that they're categorizing is going to be slightly different than, people who came from a family who took pictures all the time, which is what my dad did. So that's how I ended up with so many photos when he passed. So really, that's the last step as far as organizing your photos, is categorizing it by how you decided to delineate your life. So here are some tips so that you don't kind of get frustrated or burn out when you are organizing your print photos. One, I always say start small. Learn that process of gathering and then quick sorting and creating the family timeline, which you can use over and over again, and the categorizing with maybe just a box at a time or a stack of albums at a time, because then you will get good at it. And then you can go to larger boxes and bags or your entire collection. Also set a time limit. We all get tired. So set a time limit, an hour to start or maybe 2 hours. You don't want to get so fatigued that you don't want to go back to it. So keep it positive. And it's okay to take time to reminisce. You see a photo that you love and you want to really kind of get into it and reminisce and think about the stories behind it, or actually, take a picture of it just to send to your siblings or something like that. That's okay. And lastly, make it a family activity. it's really great. And the stories that'll come out or that you'll be reminded of will just be amazing. So this is when I just want to introduce Dig Your Photos. The process that I stated already, the hunt and gather, the quick sort, the creating a family timeline, and categorizing are all described on recipe cards in Dig Your Photos, along with so many other tools that are included and videos. So if you are thinking of organizing your print photos, Dig Your Photos is a great kit to help you organize your own print photos, or it also makes a great gift. It really is empowering. Don't let your memories fade away. So as I said, it comes with what I call recipe cards, and each of the recipe cards have a QR code that leads you to a video in 5 minutes or less of me demonstrating that particular phase. You also get a toolkit. And in the toolkit is all the tools that a certified photo manager uses. A magnifying glass that I use almost every time I'm organizing one of my clients' photos. I use a magnifying glass to look at the items in the background, whether it's a calendar or a movie marquee, or I've even counted birthday candles so that you can date that photo. Gloves, very important to use gloves so you don't get the grease or any residue on the photo. And also I use gloves to clean off the photo because usually the photos have some sort of dust or debris on them, and I'll clean off the front and the back with the gloves. A palette knife, that's to get the stuck photos out of the magnetic albums and also frames. It comes in really handy to gently lift the photo up so that you can not damage it and remove it from its housing. And then there's the gum eraser, which I love. So many of the photos, especially if you're going to stack them, you want to do this. Many photos will have glue residue on the back or tape residue, and it will cause problems when you stack the photos or even when you go to scan them if you're scanning them yourself, because it will gum up the photo behind it or it will gum up your scanning machine, and that's really not good. So I always use a gum eraser to get rid of all of the residue on the back of the photo, and you just use the eraser kind of in a circular motion, and it really balls up the glue really nicely so that you have a nice clean photo back and front. And also there's an archival safe pencil so you can take notes on the photo itself, on the back of the photo, and index cards so you can use them to categorize your photos. Also is that family timeline template. It's a resource that you get online, and you get the family timeline template paper, which rolls out to be 5 feet long. And the Dig Your Photos box turns into a sorting box once you pull everything out. So it can hold 1,275 photos. So the benefits you can expect, not necessarily from Dig Your Photos, but also just from having an organized photo collection, whether you do it yourself or you hire someone, is that you'll have peace of mind because your photo collection is pared down and you can find the ones you need quickly to share and also to savor. So that's part of easy access and retrieval. And then enhanced preservation. An organized photo collection allows you to share your story with other people, as well as to have it digitized so that you can leave a legacy and share your story for generations to come. So once you do scan your photos, what's next? Well, first, I've mentioned a couple times temporary storage, whether it's those photo boxes you get at Michael's or any other craft store, or whether you're using shoe boxes, or whether you're using the Dig Your Photos box. That's temporary storage. What you really want to do is find housing that's archival safe for your photos. And so I recommend always moving your photo collection into archival safe storage. There's some great choices out there. I like archival methods because there is options for almost every size photo, as well as other types of media like slides or reel-to-reel film and negatives. And then the purpose of this whole talk is about scanning and what you need to do first. But once you have organized it, which is what I suggest you do and pare it down, you should digitize your photos. And there you have a lot of options as well. You can scan yourself, you can buy some equipment, or you can use an app to digitize. I always recommend, though, if you're doing it yourself, make sure you preserve the naming convention of the categories that you've stored your photos in. So if it's 1970, name that file, once it's digitized, 1970, so that you can always know what's in that file, or at least think about what, what area or what category that photo was from. And you can hire a certified photo manager to scan your photos. You can go to thephotomanagers.com and find one in your area. Or you can send it out to a scanning company, whether it's local, you could bring it to one if you have one in your town, or you can send it out. And then it's very important to store your digitized collection and not just have one copy, because not only is our physical items at risk, but also when things are on the computer, they're truly at risk, whether it's from a computer failure, maybe there's a storm and then there's an electrical surge, or ransomware, or just that your computer just completely melts down. So you should always have a backup. Permanent.org is a cloud-based backup service that provides amazingly safe place to preserve and to share your digital collection. And in this holiday season, not only think about Dig Your Photos for a gift, but also think about permanent. They have a program now where you can gift permanent storage. You can share it with family and friends, whether they're an existing member, you can buy them more storage, or you can invite new people by giving them a gift, and they become now permanent.org members as well. It really is one of the truly meaningful gifts you can give anyone, is to preserve your memories or their memories together. So we're coming to the end of where I'm talking, but I'm happy to talk more, and you can ask any questions. But I did want to mention that, and I'm going to put a couple links in the chat in a minute. But I want to mention that right now there is a discount code for Dig Your Photos. You can get 15% off, and the discount code is permanent15, and it's valid until the middle of December. So that's, if you're thinking of giving it as a gift, that's great, perfect timing. Or if you want it for yourself, also perfect timing, because you'll have it in time to work on it with family and friends. My website for Sunflower Photo Solutions is sunflowerphotosolutions.com. My website for Dig Your Photos is digyourphotos.com, and I'm going to put it in the chat. And if you want to send me an email, any questions, concerns, or just to chat, tell me what you thought of this, it's Rhoda@sunflowerphotosolutions.com. I also have a YouTube channel, which I highly recommend that you check out, because I have videos on all different types of print and digital photo organizing, as well as tips and tricks on just phone hacks, as well as how to be able to find your photos on your phone, whether using notes or comments or other things. Really, there's a lot of good tips and tricks on there. And there's a scanning download. So what I'm going to do right now is put a few links in the chat, and then I will stop sharing and we can move forward. Let's see. Let's see if these are links. Okay. All right. So I put in, here we are. Hi. Hi. I put in 3 links in the chat. One is the scanning tips download. So if you want a couple scanning tips, and that is for scanning your photos, click on that. I put in the link, the link to Dig Your Photos. And I also put in the link for gifting permanent. And I think I spelled it wrong, so it's missing a G, but that's okay. The link's good.
Gift and permanent.
Gifting.
Thank you so much, Rhoda. That was wonderful. It's always nice to dig in a little and hear more about the process.
Yeah.
Um,
I'll just show you what it looks like in person. Dig your photos.
it's so nice.
That's
It
quickly.
definitely would make such a beautiful gift.
Yeah. And it comes with instructions and it's just bright and cheery. And there is your, this is your toolkit. It comes in a nice pouch. Here is your family timeline template. And then just all the really nice resources online. And like I said, I created it out of necessity because I really was struggling with why so many people didn't organize their photos and why they were getting frustrated.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice solution to that problem because I think everyone we hear from within the permanent community really does struggle with getting started because it's an overwhelming task. And I think something that helps people just like get started with even a small collection or a small portion of their photos can be really useful in that regard. So yeah. And you said it holds up to, over 1,200 photos. So that isn't actually small. That's a decent number of photos. And
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
just say that a tip for everyone, if you want to actually know probably how many photos you have, if you stack your photos up, an inch of photos is usually about 100 photos. So if you can measure it, some photos are thicker. If you have a lot of Polaroids or something like that, then you will have less because they take up more room. But on average, so yeah. So the inside of the box is 12 and 3/4 inches, which means 1,275 photos it'll hold as temporary storage.
Perfect. We do have a couple questions, so I can read those out for you to answer if you're ready for that.
Yes.
The first one is from Eric. Do you suggest scanning negatives instead of prints when they are available?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I get it a lot, by the way. So if you if you can match up your prints and your negatives, and oftentimes you can because they're kept in the envelope, then you can actually do a comparison, right? So if if the negatives have been kept in an envelope and maybe in the slide in the envelope, then they're probably in much better condition than your photo. And so and if you care about the crispness, the quality of the scan, then that would be probably optimal. But for the most part, if your photos were already also kept in the envelope and not handled a lot, they may be also in good condition, and that might be good enough. And I will say that scanning prints is less expensive than scanning negatives. So if you were trying to make a choice, I would rather, if it was going to be cost prohibitive to scan negatives, so you were going to do nothing, scan the prints. That being said, if you have negatives that have been loose and not stored very well, oftentimes they will have scratches on them and they probably won't give a great um, digitized version. And the reasons, obviously, it's probably obvious, but the reason that negatives cost more to scan is because there's more processing, right? It's a negative; it has to be have processing to turn it into the right colors. It's also small, so you have to scan it at a higher resolution or camera scan at a higher resolution. So there is an overlay involved, so it's just more expensive.
Perfect. Thank you. Um, let's see. The next question is from Elizabeth. What do you recommend for sustaining the reference to the original negative for print photos that are pulled for scanning?
Yeah, so I'm trying to understand exactly what so if you scan a negative and not the print, you want to be able to relay it back to the scanned photo. So there are, if you go to archival methods, it's a company, there are envelopes that you can store your negatives in, and you can name them whatever you need to name them. Let's say the negatives are from, you know, 1989 Candlewood Swim Club summer or something like that, you know, it's of you in the swim club. Name your photo the exact same thing that you have categorized your negative, just as if you were doing it with regular photos. So the negatives, but there's special archival safe envelopes that are kind of long and thin that you can store your negatives in, and then you can label them. They have a little tab right
So
on the envelope.
maybe I didn't ask my question in a way that using terms that are more familiar. So I am an archivist, and I do store all of my negatives with the photographs in archival sleeves and glassines. And under your recommendation, if you were pulling photographs from your collection that is stored with their negatives,
I see what you're
you
saying.
need to know where to put that photograph back, and also go back to, I mean, under the archival practices of respect de fond, you've got to make sure that the original context of the photos that you're pulling to be scanned are sustained with their origins. So you'll have, or maybe that's too much information. I was just wondering if you recommended writing on the backs of the photographs, their neg number, and the envelope that they're being pulled from, or if you re-sleeve and then mark the sleeve, that kind of level of activity is what I was curious about.
Right. Okay. So I now understand what you're saying. So let's just assume that the photos are kept separate than the negatives, right? Then when I recommend the client, because of the housing, unless you have a bigger thing, but when I recommend clients, or not even clients, because I'm doing it for clients, so that's different, but people at home, they've organized it first, and they should scan by the category and take them all out. Now, that's different than if they're taking photos out to share, right? So now you're pulling photos out to look at with someone. So I don't recommend really writing on the back of photos or putting anything on the photo unless it's really pertinent information. But to go and just write the same year on back of every photo, you're actually
No,
okay. I thought that's what you were trying to say.
no, that's all right. Thanks.
I just feel like everything should be named. If it's the negatives, should be labeled the same as the print photo that corresponds to it, so that they have the same naming convention. You can find them. I don't think that regular people, not archivists, want to go down to the level of the actual numbering each photo and numbering each negative so that they can cross correlate, unless they're doing some sort of history project.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thank you for asking that question, Elizabeth. I know kind of provenance and keeping the yeah, I do imagine a scenario where it's hard to pair the photo with the negative once you separate them, because that requires, looking at the negative more closely and kind of figuring that out. So having some sort of system that works for you makes the most sense. And, if that is pulling them one at a time, if it's having an archival sleeve that the photo lives in that's labeled the same as the negative, that could also work. But yeah, thank you. Let's see. It looks like a couple folks are asking about scanners and reasonably priced scanners. And so there are a handful of recommendations coming from people in the chat, but Rhoda, do you have any recommendations for a reasonable scanner that's kind of beginner friendly and but doesn't maybe compromise quality completely?
Yeah. So first off, when you're scanning, Photos, let's just talk about photos for a second. You should scan at a higher resolution than would normally, the normal scanners say. Like 300 is the normal resolution that scanning companies will tell you is normal. And that's fine for printing out, if you're ever going to print out your photos only in that exact size that that photo was in. But I always recommend doing it at 600 DPI so that if in fact you ever make a photo book or some sort of poster or for a celebration, that you can go up at least one size. And let's think about it. Some older photos may be very small, right? They may be 1 by 1 or 2 by 2. So you probably would, if you were making a photo book, want to enlarge that photo. So when you are thinking about buying a scanner, even in an at-home consumer scanner, make sure that you can choose what resolution you want, and it's not just stuck on one resolution. And that really will define how much detail you can have in the photo, as well as preserving that detail once you enlarge it. So I have recommended for my clients, if you don't really want to spend a lot of money, there is the Plus Tech scanner. I don't know what it costs right now. It's under $200, but I don't know exactly how much. But you have to feed the photo through it. It's a feed scanner. You have to feed the photo through one at a time. So it does take longer. So you have to stand there and just feed each photo through. But it's easy to set up. It's easy to do naming conventions on it, and it's easy to understand where the photos went once they're on your computer. So it is one of the easier ones to use. And it's not that expensive, and it will get the job done. It all depends on how perfect you want to be. I always say done is better than perfect, really, meaning you should not do something because it's not perfect. You should do it. It should be, you should preserve your story. And then if we move up to the feed scanners where you can, put in a number, a pile of photos, somewhere between 50 and 100, and it will scan your photos, both front and back. I would say that the Epson Fast Photo 640 or 680 is a really good option. It's a little more difficult to set up, but once you set it up and understand it, it's fine. I wouldn't say it's difficult at all, but it all depends on how much hardware and software you have used in the past. The one thing I'll say about any scanner that you use, if you're doing it yourself, it's really important to make sure your photos are clean before you put them in the scanner, and clean your scanner frequently. It will get dirty, it will get dusty, it will get smudgy. Even if you have the cleanest photos, just every 100 photos, I would clean it. It could get little dust debris on it. And then also what I found too is where you're scanning, let's say it's in a window and you have a stream of light coming in on it, it will make a difference on, it can make a difference, doesn't always, but it could make a difference on the quality of the scan. So try to have even lighting even over the scanner. So those are the two recommendations. I haven't used the Plus Tech in year. I haven't used the Plus Tech in years, but I have clients who have had it, who I have recommended it and have used it when they're going through downsizing or they're going through their parents' house, and they've been very happy with it. And I think that the next level up, and I think it's up around $500 or $600, is the Fast Photo 640, and it has a lot more capabilities, that one.
Great. Okay, so moving on from scanning, we have time for one more question. So if photos from multiple years are in a single box, what would be your process or the easiest way to sort them and reorder them, I'm assuming?
Yes. So if I were doing my own collection, I would create the family timeline and sort them that way. When I'm working with a client, oftentimes, I'll have a family timeline from them. I have them fill it out for me. electronically, but also a really good kind of back of the envelope way to sort, like not a quick sort, but to sort before you look at the front is actually just to sort them by their size, because oftentimes photos that are the same size were all taken around the same time, or people are creatures of habit. They've used the same developing place, so they all kind of look the same, they have the same shape. And so a lot of times that is a good clue to the timing of when those photos were taken, whether you look at the front or the back, the size, and then you go through the process of the family timeline. I see there was a question on the spelling, so, and somebody put it plus tech.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you so much for fielding all of those questions, and to everyone who asked such great questions. We are at time, so I want to respect everyone's time and make sure that you get out of here on the hour. Thank you all so much for coming, and I hope if you have questions, you may definitely reach out to me. You can reach out to Rhoda if you have questions specifically about her services or Dig Your Photos. And of course, permanent staff will always be here to help you through anything permanent related. So yeah, we hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you in the new year. Thank you, everyone.
Excellent. Thank you.